Hey, Jason, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, sometimes my headphones don't like to switch over. And my phone is driving me nuts, so I need to mute it. Okay. How are you doing today?
Okay. Feels like a Monday.
Feels like yesterday felt like a Tuesday for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was like, is it Tuesday? Like it feels like a Tuesday. Um, Today's been pretty muggy outside. This is very, I don't know, depressing's not the right word. It's just meh because it's cloudy and whatnot. Oh, let me see. I'm trying to bring up the notes. I don't know how many folks will join, but you know, whether you stay or not, I'm still going to be doing stuff. So,
Okay, cool.
yeah, because otherwise it's just hard to find time during the day, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this is definitely not my day job, as I'm sure most. Hey, Mike. Yay. Oh, I cannot hear you, Mike. Can you hear him, Jason?
I cannot hear him now.
Yeah, my
Oh, I can.
noise canceling app crashed, so when that happens, I have to switch my microphone stuff around.
Yeah.
Oh, so just so you know, you posted the wrong Zoom link in the
Did I?
Slack chat. Yeah.
But it was for the working session. That's what's in the working session. I swear.
So I'm
Oh,
looking
no,
at
no,
it.
no.
Yeah.
You're right. I'm looking at it now too. Ah, thank you for pointing that out.
Yep, no problem.
Edit. Now I feel bad for anyone who's hanging out there. Okay. Did it do it right this time? I think so. The 999966. Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. Hopefully other folks get to join. Hi, Jay.
Hey, how's it going, Nova?
Good. How are you?
Hanging in there, hanging in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, not too bad at all.
That's good to hear. I'm trying to sort out the agenda. Obviously, this is a working session, so but I do want to at least capture some notes if we need it. So I'm gonna copy, paste. Unless, Mike, do you know a better way of doing this? This whole creating a new subset for the meeting notes.
Oh, so usually, so one of the ways that we've done it in the past is either in a separate doc or in the bottom of this doc or something like that, is to just sort of have a template of all those like things of like the agenda and the attendees, and so you just copy paste when you have a new one.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't think I have that in here, so I will do that later. Appreciate that input. Okay, so I now have an agenda or a meeting notes agenda. So if you want to sign in, you can. 08:30, and I will share. Okay, so what would you all like to do or work on today? I know there was a couple of things from last time, and I'm trying to share advanced portion of my screen. Share. Minimize this.
Oh.
Let's see. Okay. Should be. Sorry, Jay. And then something about it's raining. It's pouring. I would say the old man is snoring. Yeah, it's been a while since we've had rain, and I'd say for the past week, we've had rain almost every single day, and it's not like sprinkle, it's like downpour. So very much happy about it, because it's been really, really hot.
No.
So that's, anybody else like to share anything? It's okay if you don't. I'm not going to pressure anyone.
I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, where it's just nothing but sun. Feels like 24 hours a day.
Yeah, I'm in Austin, Texas, so
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so from the last time, there was a couple of things. One was Isaac was going to work on some blogs based off of the presentation he did. I know Mike, you mentioned, Marina spreadsheet for the CNCF. I think it mapped to Salsa. At least that's the intent that I had, but I know I wrote SSDF. So I don't know if that's what this spreadsheet is. I didn't get a chance to look at it. And then the charter. Oh, I really want to get that done. It's one of those things that, like, trying to pull teeth, and I just need people to like go look at it. And thumbs up or thumbs down, comment, so we could just get it over with and submit it for a PR. And then I did this. So yeah, it looks like taxonomy and the mapping really is about the only things that we have. So what would the folks on the phone, online, what do you want to work on?
Well, I was
So
going to mention.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to mention that I think Marina may not continue. I'm not sure. So I believe she was an intern here at Train Guard. So she finished her internship. So maybe I'll try to contact her, or if we want to try to contact her.
Sure, I can do that. I mean, I know that she's
Okay,
still
great.
involved in the space. She's been doing the work
Yep.
even outside of the
okay.
internship in the CNCF at least.
Okay.
And so and to be clear, I already asked her, like, hey, does it make, can I go and send this over to the Salsa folks so that we can look at this and start, building off of it? Said yes. So also from more officially on the CNCF side, the CNCF is doing a like a mapping, they have that other control mapping, which I sent out in the it's the Salsa mapping to other frameworks. So wait, no, not that one. Hold on. There was another document which I thought I included. Oh, the CNCF controls catalog, which does talk through some of this. So John, who's the lead on that one, and I'm gonna probably butcher his last name, and I apologize.
It's this one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So that one is a bit of the more official sort of, this is the CNCF's controls catalog. And one of the things in there is mappings to NIST 853. The idea was also to have mappings back to SSDF and potentially other sorts of control frameworks and those sorts of things. But the big thing that here was that John also wanted to, and he's attended a couple of the Salsa meetings. I don't know if he has the ability to attend if he's free during this time, but I know that he wanted to kind of say, if it's something a bit more officially, like, hey, how is the CNCF mapping to Salsa? Then he would definitely, he would probably take that one, just because he's the lead on the CNCF's security stuff anyway.
Okay. Who was that? What was that name again? Sorry.
Yep. Sorry. So I'll type it here in chat.
Okay.
John Ziola, I think, or Zayola.
John Zua. Okay, and so you're saying he would potentially be a good candidate to helping us fill out in this document or in our spreadsheet for salsa mapping?
I think the idea would be to try and do both. So one of the specific things that we probably want to do long term is probably do something like OzCal, right? Because OzCal allows us to do the mapping both ways. So if it's like we can just both point to sort of one document that's kind of like almost like a mapping layer. Actually, are folks familiar with OzCal?
Nope. Not
Oh,
me. Anybody else?
Yeah, I know a little bit about it.
oh, okay. Wasn't okay. So give me 1 second to pull this up. So,
Let me stop sharing.
yeah. And I don't want to take up too much time on this per se, but give me 1 second. So OzCal is a really neat, it's essentially like imagine if you could kind of describe controls in XML or JSON or YAML or whatever, and as a way of, for a way of like interoperability between controls and how to map controls to other controls, and even how to map tools to controls, so that if a tool, has some sort of specification, let's say somewhere in there, something like an ozcal.xml or ozcal.json, they can say, hey, we support these controls. And then based on other mappings, you can say, okay, well, that NIST control that they support maps to this salsa control or whatever. So that means we can kind of go in and do those sorts of things. There is an IBM tool around this called Trestle.
It's interesting because when I try to go to that page, I wonder if it's case sensitive because it won't. It says 404 not found.
Oh, okay. Let me. I mean, yeah, I'm not sure on that front, but
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
But the basic idea behind some of it is, let me see, they've changed around their document a bit. So let me just go in. Is it this one? No, it's not that one. Yeah, here we go. So the basic idea behind this is, actually, hold on. There's supposed to be a, if I can't, they might have changed some of the documents around. Key concepts, identifiers. Do they have the? Yeah, it looks like they changed around the diagrams and stuff, but they used to have a nice little diagram that sort of showed, the idea was people could write up their controls. And like, so for example, NIST could write up their controls, and they actually have this. So if I do NIST 853 OzCal, and that's just the example. Where is this? GitHub. So what they have here, which is really useful, is, let me just take the YAML because that's a little bit easier to read. You can see that they have, I'm just gonna take a little while there, but you can see here they have like a whole sort of definition of this thing. And so the idea would be, this can be viewed as a spreadsheet. This can be viewed as, you can, imagine you embed this in some sort of document, whether it's Markdown or whatever. And so if it changes, like if the definition of a thing changes, it's just a link to the definition, as opposed to like a direct thing where, the idea here is to, especially in the government, there's so much copy pasted stuff. It's like, oh yes, we implement this control, which has this definition. And so if anything ever changes, you need to now go back to all the documents where you cited it and copy paste again. Whereas here, the idea is like, it's essentially just an identifier to the control. Yeah. And then that identifier can be essentially, pull that content and embed it in the document. And so for compliance purposes, you can say, great, well, you're compliant with V4. V5 has the same identifiers outside of just the version number. And so you just would have to update the version, and then you immediately pull in the new controls. And then the idea also in here, and I don't remember exactly where, is there's like a concept of like oh, well, these mappings work in these ways. So if somebody comes in with, if there's 12 different things, but they're all in OSCAL and there's also adequate OSCAL mappings between them, then you could say, well, am I SLSA compliant? Well, I'm SLSA 853 compliant and they have these mappings, and it automatically will tell you whether or not you would be, NIST 853 plus SLSA plus whatever else.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this is good. I've not seen this before. So then, and I know you mentioned IBM Trestle, but I don't know anything about that either. But curious about how do we take what we have, which is a Google spreadsheet, and kind of format it in this way or use this tool to start doing that? Because right now it is very all manually written, where we say this is part, we believe that this control in NIST, 800, 161 maps to SLSA level 4, 3, whatever. So how do we go about doing that? Because I think that would be extremely beneficial.
Good question. So I know one of the big issues, because I haven't done a whole lot with OSCAL since like 2017, 2018 timeframe. I've on and off, I've kind of come in as just sort of an end user of the thing. I believe there are some tools to help out here that could potentially take something that's like in like a Microsoft spreadsheet kind of format, and convert it into sort of the OSCAL format, as long as you're using generic sorts of stuff. Like I can put that in as something for me to do a little bit of research on, because I know that there are some tools today that help out with this. There's also some tools that probably still need to be built out to make it super easy, but there is some stuff here around helping do some of that. And since SLSA, I think, is also going to be a little bit easier, right? Because SLSA, it's only like whatever it is, 24 or so requirements compared to hundreds of controls.
Yeah.
So on that end, I think can totally, even if we had to manually write up the YAML or JSON or whatever, it shouldn't take that long.
Sure.
But yeah, I can definitely do that conversion.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to find the I'll give you the link. It's here it is. This is the mapping that we have today. And so let me share a portion of my screen again. And right, so it's very much, we said, okay, this control or this subsection of this control and what it said maps to this, right?
Yep.
And so we were kind of doing that for what we knew, and how we interpreted it. But obviously this is not long term, it's not sustainable unless there's a team of people constantly updating this. So I love the idea of using something like OSCAL to have pointers so that we don't lose the reference of what control is trying to meet or satisfy.
And just a point of clarity, right? So you're using OSCAL and making it automated in that fashion. Should we be looking at, like, for instance, say 800-53 version 6 one day, right? And there's a whole set of other controls that get implemented, put in. It would mean that it gets changed in one place and it gets reflected across anywhere that piece of automation has been implemented, right? So
yeah, at least conceptually, right? There's probably going to be certain things that we'll have to
manually do.
manually do. But I believe the idea is, like, it would be significantly simpler. It would just be, you would update the pointer to like V6 or whatever from V5. And then if, like, largely if the definitions haven't changed between the two versions, the unique identifier should be the same. And so it should be okay there. And then, yeah, the other thing that's kind of neat is the end goal would be, you can sort of say this, like, some people are even talking about certain things, like, could you tag in your, let's say it's an open source project, could you tag in your source code this piece of the code implements this piece of the NIST 853 control, or this tool hits those things, so that when people kind of go back and say, great, I need, I am building out a new environment, and so I need all of these different controls implemented. And so you can take things off the shelf that are just like, okay, well, here's their mapping to what they actually implement for NIST controls or SLSA controls, or even the new one that you showed off a little earlier today of like of the Microsoft supply chain framework of like, hey, if these things are done, this is, you could just sort of say, yep, I'm doing all the right stuff.
Yeah. So I mean, that's pretty man, that's pretty slick. They'll also help you. They'll help prevent a little bit of technology debt later on, right? And they'll also help you help prevent overuse of tech, tools, overuse of tooling, by kind of helping you streamline a little bit where you're pointing your efforts to, right? You can take, maybe one tool can, service a few different requirements rather than you trying to implement a tool for each requirement, right? So
Yeah. So curious, Mike, do you know of anyone using this today? Maybe an enterprise or a company that has to perform these kinds of mappings? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so when I was at MUFG, a large bank, we were looking at that. A few other companies I remember were talking about this. A few even were at the SLSA meetings, and I'm blanking on exactly who this was. I'm trying to remember.
We don't.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, oh, I was just gonna say, one of the things here also though is like, this is very much like OSCAL is a thing that came out of NIST and came out of the government. So a lot of the government folks are all using it, and the government folks are all using it to actually simplify the mappings of NIST controls across various agencies. Because even among the various agencies, they're like, oh, we implement, we sort of looked at this control slightly differently than you did. But if there was one person who just had a catalog of all the stuff, then you could just go and say, oh, great, I could just pull from that catalog and it'll tell me, hey, here's, for example, the tools that meet those controls, or here's how other organizations underneath the sort of government umbrella, US government umbrella, I should say, has done this. Now, as far as other enterprise companies, like I do know that some very large enterprise companies, especially those that operate with, do business with the government, US government, have done some OSCAL stuff. A few folks I remember in SLSA and some of the other OpenSSF stuff have talked about doing talked about doing OSCAL in the past. I haven't been super deep in it the past couple of years, but I believe that there are some folks, and it's probably worthwhile even to maybe bring it up in was it Thursday's meeting for SLSA, just to kind of ask the question.
I don't. Oh yeah, we do have a SLSA meeting Thursday. Okay, yeah. Let's bring it up there, because it would be good to know if there's someone that can help us just kind of get kickstarted if you're not, or if you have trouble or aren't able to. I think that would be extremely handy. And I'm curious, and then you think that was it Joe? Was that his name? John would do the same for these controls, or no?
Yeah, so John has been looking at OSCAL as well, and like essentially converting this spreadsheet into an OSCAL catalog and then doing the mappings between that sort of thing.
Okay.
I should ask. I could actually reach out to him even as we're kind of talking through this on the CNCF Slack and see what the current status is with some of these things.
Okay. Yeah. Let's go. Trying to write a few notes. But yeah, thank you for bringing this to our attention. I think this is extremely valuable, even for internal use. Just thinking, I was like, oh, I've never heard of this thing. It's pretty cool. Okay,
Yeah,
so I'm writing. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, what I will say is I'm not exactly sure the status of tooling for OSCAL. I know that there is a thing called Trestle, which is made by IBM. I'm not super familiar with it outside of I think somebody had given a demo in one of the working groups, whether it was SLSA or the supply chain integrity working group or one of the ones in CNCF. It's hard to keep track, but I do know that they have the idea is it also helps with the generation of some of these things, so that you can imagine using stuff like tagging in tooling that maybe says like, this tool implements this thing, and then the output of your CI/CD would be a report, like an OSCAL compliant XML report or whatever, that is like, hey, you've hit these SLSA requirements or whatever. And this is actually something that was being discussed as part of the SLSA conformance work. And to be clear, the SLSA conformance stuff is still very like introductory, but just like the OpenSSF wants to make sure that if SLSA becomes a thing, you can say you are self-certifying yourself as SLSA, but you also don't want to go in and just allow anybody to say, yep, I'm SLSA 4 and I'm not going to tell you any proof. And then that could potentially cause issues with the brand of SLSA, right? If everybody says, hey, I'm SLSA 4 and they're not actually abiding by the rules, then it makes SLSA look bad or whatever.
Yeah, correct. Okay, so a couple of action items. Mike, you said you were going to look into what John is doing to reach out. I will put this on the agenda for the SLSA meeting on Thursday. Did I miss any other to-dos for this particular topic? I don't think so. Okay, so then with this, I don't think it would be a good idea to start doing the mapping, because I think we need to convert this spreadsheet into something more automation friendly. So then we can start mapping the controls and not have to do copy paste of text within some of these regulations or frameworks. So where does the team want to go next? I'm going back to so we have the charter, and then we have, what's it? Oh, the blogs. We can brainstorm on blogs too. If there's anything other than what Isaac said he would work on for the taxonomy. Thoughts?
I mean, I say that we want to get the charter done. I mean, I'd say let's go ahead and take a look at that charter real quick, y'all. If all of this is just taking a look and reviewing, I know I'm sitting in there now. But if it's just reviewing the different sections, if we're good on the sections, just reviewing those. Let's go ahead and finish that.
Thoughts from other folks?
Yeah, no, I agree.
I would agree too, but I'm biased. So any Gilbert or Jason?
I'm listening and learning. I don't want to.
Okay.
my
That's
opinion.
fine.
I mean, I have
Okay.
opinions. I just don't. I don't want to deviate from what you guys have already done. I do. My only suggestion is I saw the chart with the mappings from the CNCF. I'm familiar with FedRAMP. I'm familiar with CIS benchmarks. The mapping can be very hard, I'll call it.
Yep.
And very, I'll call it spread. So could we maybe focusing on one area first?
Yes.
Like a phased approach. But
Yes. Definitely. Yeah, we started with the SSDF with Brandon Lum, a couple folks from Red Hat. And I think Jason, you were part of some of that. And
Yeah,
then Aaron.
part of it,
Yeah.
small part of it.
So yeah, we started doing the SSDF, and then as we had time, we expanded to the others. But definitely, I think in order for us to make any progress, we should focus on one and move on to the next, or maybe we do two in parallel. But yeah, I would agree with that assessment. Okay,
I do have
Go
to
ahead.
drop, but yeah, the charter probably seems like we can knock that out until we get a large enough group to split up kind of the mappings. But
Yep.
I do have to
Yep.
drop. So.
I also
Okay.
have to drop, Melba, I'll, stay in touch with you. Let me know where I can help. I wanted to at
Yeah,
least wait a little bit.
just look at the charter. It's just, what we are trying to accomplish, like, what our mission is and vision, et cetera, and how we're going to accomplish it. So, as you go through the different section, there's like a review. If you put a thumbs up, thumbs down, or like a mediocre, right, and we can address the concerns or comments. And so that way we can finalize it and just publish it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah.
All right,
No
bye guys.
problem. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Okay, so I know, Mike, you did a couple of these, and since I only have Jay now on the call left from
Yeah,
Mike.
I'm trying to mimic you guys' your thumbs up here with I'm having the damnedest time. I'm trying to mimic the thumbs up.
Here,
I think it looks cool. I want to do some cool stuff.
Here, I did a copy and paste. So if you agree with that, you can keep on. I actually don't know how to do this. I copied it from Josh's document. He did it for something else, and like Emmy had did like a mediocre. I'm like, oh, I want that one, so I could just copied hers because I didn't know how to do it.
Cool as hell. I'm sitting here like, man, some cool stuff. Trying to figure it out.
Yeah,
thought
I
you
don't
guys
know
had
how
did
to do
something.
it. I don't, unless Mike knows how to do it. I just copied and pasted from another document that did it. Like, how do you do that in a document? Does it know? Oh, insert emoji reaction. There it goes. You right click.
Well, I did that here, so
Oh.
I have an emoji reaction out here. I just don't know. I just don't know how to get it to show up here. I mean, like, I can submit an emoji reaction. I know how to do that. I just don't know how to get it to show up.
Got it. No, I didn't even know how to get the emoji in there.
Yeah,
Oh,
I've just
maybe
been copying and
because,
pasting myself. Yeah.
yeah, maybe because you are a commenter. Is that why? Because somebody told me to put this in comment mode, so maybe that's why.
Well, I got an
So
emoji reaction kicking out here. It's just one.
yeah. So I think that's why. Yeah. Okay.
Now under vision, we have as the golden standard. What is golden standard? What does golden mean?
Yeah, I tried to find a different phrase for lingua franca because that's what the original vision or slash mission that Josh and team put. So I was like, well, lingua franca, I don't think a lot of people know. So, but a lot of people understand golden standard as like, that's the high, like it's held highest. But if there's another phrase, by all means, we can change that. I was just trying to find something that replaced lingua franca, because I can't even say that, let alone understand what it means. I've never heard of that, but I understand what it means now.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I think gold standard or even something like, because lingua, yeah, it's like the common language, that kind of thing.
So white adoption, golden standard. Would it be common language for supply chain security? Now that I think about it, because
yeah,
this is more of like a.
But is that the ultimate goal? I thought in some respect this what was the desire was to be adopted as either in preparation of compliance or as the standard for supply chain security compliance, right? Or wrong?
Yeah, so wide adoption recognition, we could expand this to, I'm trying to find the original, there's like a SIG charter, SIG, there it is. Nope, that's not it. That's ours. Scope. Nope. I can't remember. No. I can't remember where Josh's original one is, but it was something of the sort of, I can find it. It said obtain, I think it was like recognition or adoption for public-private sectors as the lingua franca for supply chain security. It was that easy of a sentence. So if we want to expand it, I'm more than happy to do that, because it was as part of the strategy, it is to, help them understand how to use it for their supply chain security journey. But then also, I think we're trying to, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, I think we're trying to make it the standard that this is what you use when you're trying to ensure your supply chain is secure, your software supply chain. So it's more than just on the journey. I think it's also trying to be kind of like the ISO or the SOC or HIPAA, right? It is the standard that you want to go for. Am I wrong in that, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's still some debate exactly on the complete scope of it. Like largely, that's kind of the ideal is for sort of when thinking about the production of software. Yeah, this should be the gold standard for producing software. And then yeah, that's pretty much it. And right now, the big thing based on the specification and everything else is just like we're currently focused on stuff like provenance, which has been missing from even like other pictures that are out there.
Yeah, Mike, you hit the nail on the head, and Melba's sitting here adding that now. But yeah, I think that part is the part that's probably missing. I mean, we can either have golden standard or just flat out say lingua franca. I mean, I don't know if we need to say golden standard. I think lingua franca as a lingua franca for producing software and supply chain security. I think just to having it like that, because I like that one sentence that you had, Mel, but that was clear and concise. But then having what Mike said about producing software
and ensuring a secure
supply chain,
software supply chain.
Sure.
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
And I need to stop with the capitalization. Software supply chain.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Any okay, so it looks like this is just a direct copy and paste. So that was per trying to remember his name. I can visualize his face. I can't remember who recommended that. The name is escaping me right now. Okay, evaluate. This is kind of what we've been talking about, and we talked about it in the GitHub issue for what is the criteria. I think you both were part of that discussion, right? Should SLSA increase or decrease their scope? How does it work with other frameworks? Is there an overlap? Are there deficiencies or out of scope? I guess items in SLSA with relation to other frameworks? Are there use cases, personas to address that were not considered? And then, it talks about like, well, how are you going to do this, right? Like, well, you can use any sort of medium. I say may, like, it's not, required.
Yeah, I remember these. I think we for the most part we settled on some of these
Yes,
in that meeting.
correct. Yeah. A lot of people were saying the same things. And so I just took that GitHub issue and summarized it into these bullet points.
I think there was one of these that we didn't. It was
Oh, you mean
blank in the meeting.
in the blank in the meeting?
It was blank in one of these we didn't go into. I can't remember whether it was and I think one of the things about it was whether or not I can't remember now.
Oh, are you talking
Um,
about these titles, these subsections?
The subsections, right,
Oh,
so
yeah, it was educate and evangelize, and actually, evangelize was empty, and I did
evangelize is
add,
empty. There you
yeah,
go.
so I did add this, right? So educate usually is like, this is how you use salsa. This is what salsa is, what salsa isn't, and evangelizing is a little different. It's more of like, like a promotion, a commercial or something of the sort, right? So if there's too much overlap, we can definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, I see a hand up. Sorry, I was not paying attention. I don't know how long you've had your hand up, Brandon. Thank you for joining. Oh, you're on mute if you're trying to talk. Brandon. Oh,
Oh, he
okay.
wants a link to the doc again. He said, oh, never mind.
Then
Found it.
he found it. But no,
Okay,
he
okay.
just put his hand up. But yeah, I'm curious. Seems like his Zoom just died. He just he messaged me. He just said his Zoom died. He'll be back in a second.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I was not paying attention to the little thing because I thought it was just the three of us. It didn't even do a ding. Normally, wouldn't it notify when somebody new comes in? No, I guess not.
You hear me now?
Yep,
Yes.
can hear you now.
Okay, sorry.
Hey, sorry about that, Brandon. I didn't see you join.
No worries, no worries. I would just, I think, so far everything looks good. I was just reading through it. I'm wondering whether the education and evangelize aspect of it. I wasn't sure whether there was going to be like a salsa adoption sick or something like that. I feel like these are usually like a little bit of a separate exercise. Um,
That's a good point because we don't have an adoption one right now. And I'm trying to find Josh's Google Doc where the SIGs were originally defined. If you have that link, by all means, please post it because I can't find it right now.
I'll bring it up in a second.
Okay, thank you. Because we would want to educate on our findings. Like, hey, here's how it maps to this, how it maps to that. This is how you, like your positioning, how salsa can be used. But evangelize very well may be more in the adoption of the tools, maybe. Social media posts, etc. Oh, thank you, Mike. So let me click. Where is it?
Yep. So yeah, there was an adoption working group where the idea would be eventually, right, to do this. And so I think the thing is we sort of split up some of the components of adoption between the teams until the specification, tooling, and positioning is a little bit more refined. Because once that's more refined, then we know, hey, here is the vision, here is like not just the vision, but here is the very clear thing that we're doing for 1.0. Now let's drive adoption of that. It's just the problem that we had is like we didn't want to start driving adoption while we still had some open questions on certain requirements and these other things, because then it's just going to cause people to get very confused and be like, hey, this seems half-baked, as opposed to, no, it's just we're figuring out some of the details. So the idea was probably sometime next month, maybe even to start to spin up the adoption. But as an example, like this is still an open question where we probably should, in the very least, I would say that the positioning group is not necessarily responsible for evangelizing, but maybe responsible for setting up the evangelizing initially, so that when the adoption team gets spun off, it's going to be super easy or whatever, maybe. But I know, like, the tooling meeting, for example, one of the things that we had in there is potentially something like also documentation, right? Because, like, you know, really that's the adoption side, is like, hey, you write up the docs, you show some examples, but given that that doesn't currently exist, like the adoption thing doesn't quite exist, maybe we do a little bit of it in the tooling meeting. I don't know, that was just some thoughts that were kind of brought up, or we could just keep pushing off that as much as possible until the adoption group gets spun up.
Yeah, I think it's maybe as we're like putting together the charter for this, like I think it's fine that like, we pick up some of the adoption stuff. But maybe we should be a little bit more intentional of like saying, like, you know, these are things that probably more towards the adoption side, and when the adoption thing comes up, you know, probably they take it up.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, and I'm looking at the original, and it looks like it's heavily dependent on tooling. So I'm wondering, and then postpone this until a future roadmap cycle, top projects package manager. So this almost sounds like using SLSA tooling. But we might want to clarify, you know, would we want to push, once this team is set up, would we want to push some of the evangelism into the adoption space? Because the way it's written right now, it doesn't look like it. But let me go back. Here, no, not here. Here.
That largely depends on what the adoption thing scope is, right? I mean, is it towards adopting any tooling that gets created specifically for SLSA, or is it because I see it depend on tooling, and I don't know that I necessarily disagree with that, right? I mean, I think across a lot of these frameworks, making sure that the tools that are being used and that you have a right reference implementation, and then of course some type of a reference architecture around the tools, but a reference implementation of the framework with respect to the tools, then you can begin to evangelize adoption at each level. So I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I wonder about scoping of the adoption SIG in with regards to the evangelizing portion of positioning.
Yeah, I was trying to figure that out too, because I know Mike, there was that blog that just went out recently, and I missed it in the chat, like completely didn't even see it. And I literally posted something right after, and I didn't see it. And so then it dawned on me, I'm like, wait, should we have a team, like an adoption could be one, or is it the positioning team that helps with getting these things through and reviewing? Because you are trying to position SLSA in a good light, and how to use it, and you know, what tools are available, etc. So would it be appropriate to funnel the blogs to, you know, one of these two? And that was a thought that came across my mind yesterday, and I'm not sure what the answer is, right? But blogging is evangelism, positioning, educating. So I was thinking about that last night, trying to understand what, you know, maybe we need to ask about that as well in the meeting on Thursday.
Yeah, I think it's like kind of, at least with what I see with, for example, SPX, right? I think initially all the groups were kind of doing a little bit of this, right? But then once it started to scale, then you kind of needed dedicated groups to concentrate on, like, oh, you know, what's the messaging of the blog posts? Is it getting the right target audience? And then they also, I believe, have a and then there'll be a SIG for education as well, which is like, okay, we are creating once a positioning group creates a point of view and or like a thought leadership, then it's about creating training materials, training courses, like developer certification and stuff like that. At least that's I think that's why I see it broader
Yeah.
for education and evangelism.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I'm trying to think. So where was that? Where is it? Educate, embed. So educate, I wrote about use cases, anything that's out of scope, right? Educating. Brandon, this came from your example of working with NIST as an example, to figure out how SLSA fits and is complementary sort of, to not complementary is the right word, but it can help satisfy some of the controls that they have in SSDF as an example. And how to leverage SLSA in terms of community. And so evangelize should be something similar. The only thing I put here was highlight the benefits that can be gained. And maybe that's the key, is that benefits is too vague. Because when I was writing this, I was thinking in terms of like, you can meet these controls and, you can ensure, your software, your production of software, not ensure, but, you can be at least to a higher degree of certainty that your software is more secure by using SLSA. And so I don't know, do we want to expand this so that it is more intentional, like you recommended, Brandon?
Yeah, I
Sorry.
feel like the evangelism and coverage, like when I see the highlighting benefits, the word that comes to mind, at least for me, is like incentivize. Because I guess the question is like, is as a positioning working group, are we just creating guidance documents, or are we also kind of going out to talk about? I guess both, right?
Yeah, I think it's definitely to educate, and I'm trying to go back to Josh's original one, right? Triangulation, which blah 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 blah. And so when you're doing this, in my mind, please feel free to speak, Jay and Mike. You would want to educate on those findings, right? So it could be blogs, it could be documents, it could be LinkedIn postings, it could be talking about it in conferences, right? And how SLSA can help with these compliance items, at least in my mind. And so I tried to put that on here, like, OpenSSF meetings, maybe social media accounts, conferences, because that's what we're trying to do, is to educate. But you're also evangelizing at that same point. And I know I had a question for the group. Is this too similar to educate that we can get rid of it? And that part I was just, educating. Go ahead.
I don't know about getting rid of it. Why don't you? I mean, you join them together.
Oh yeah,
I
no,
don't know.
that's what I mean. Sorry, that's what I mean. Like putting them under one subtitle.
Yeah.
Well,
and because I think at least in the beginning, they both are almost one and the same. I think in the beginning, to evangelize is to educate. To educate is to evangelize, right? And but I think once it becomes once we reach apex, right, of becoming the lingua franca, then then the education portion now lives with a published consumable standardization of some type of a document or some type of a reference implementation. And now you're evangelizing its success across the industry, right? Those things become a little bit more separate as we begin to achieve its recognition and its adoption. But I think at this current stage, they're both one and the same.
Okay. So, these two. I'm gonna have to figure out how to word this to try to highlight the benefits and may highlight. Actually, I can do this here.
I think it may require also an additional line that speaks to future state, because this is the charter, right? So the less we have to touch it after the fact, the better. So if we have a line in the charter that speaks to future state of the distancing between education and evangelizing as adoption, and as adoption and recognition increases, then somebody might say maybe a couple of years down the road, hey, we haven't looked at the charter for a while. I think we're at this point, we may be able to just separate these two out, and then you can have that discussion then. But the charter still is relevant because we have that one line in there that speaks to the fact that we've already thought about what this is going to become later on.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so I put that there. I'm gonna have to figure out how to squeeze this in here in a nicer way, because right now it doesn't quite make sense. Okay, so then I'm gonna scratch this out and try to combine it up top. And I know we are very close. Yeah. Oh, it's on the dot. Then there's encourage, obviously trying to get other people to participate, right? For different reasons, right? Diverse perspectives brings new ideas, potentially.
No, but I'm here to
and-
tell you, after the meeting that Michael and I were just in, I get the feeling that participation, especially here, is going to increase just a little bit more. I got something cooking. I got a bun in
Okay,
the oven.
good.
Bun in the oven.
Good. I don't know what meeting that was, but good. That's good to hear. I'm all for it. So yeah, if you can, if everyone can just look at the rest of it, the encourage operating goals and leadership accountability. I think that the other ones are pretty straightforward. It was just this educate and evangelize was, and I could probably do something like this, evangelize, just for now. But okay, well, thanks everyone for joining. Appreciate the feedback, the insights. Definitely Mike on that OSCAL. Let us know what you find, and we will meet again soon.
Cool.
Okay, thanks
Cool.
everyone. Have a good day.
Later.